Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. My name's Meg Smith and I'm a facilitator and coach and I work in the areas of leadership development. I specialise in emotional intelligence, and myself and my colleague here, Nick, partner with Genos, and we're accredited in the emotional intelligence instrument, which we'd like to talk a little bit about today, and also about just what emotional intelligence means, how can you apply it to your day-to-day workplace, and what are the opportunities for you to develop in those skills. So, as I said, my colleague here, Nick, you would like to introduce yourself, Nick?
So I'm Nick Hedges and I run a HR advisory business that specialises in consulting to small to medium businesses that don't have HR support. So today, I'm really excited about today because it's an area of passion of mine and something we've spoken a lot about, and I'm really excited to be able to talk to you guys about emotional intelligence and how it can be applied to the workplace.
Yeah, and the reason that we've decided to talk to you today is that, you know, just in recent conversations that we've had, Nick and I have really been talking a lot about how emotional intelligence either is demonstrated at work or where there's been a real lack. And one of the stories that Nick spoke to me about just recently really underpins the need to be very aware of recognising others and also recognising your own emotions. So Nick, would you like to tell us a little bit about that client?
Yeah, so one of the things that we were talking about is I shared an experience with Meg about one of my clients who was talking to me about, he's in the real estate industry and he's a very successful agent in the eastern suburbs, and he was talking to me about how essentially he's having some retention issues with his staff, and that what will happen is that they'll work with him for 12 to 18 months, he builds them up, trains them up, and then they go out to other agencies, and he couldn't understand why they were leaving. And he said, you know, Nick, I'm giving them everything. I buy them suits. I take them out for nice lunches. I introduce them to some pretty influential people, and I can't understand why they're going to the other agencies around the corner. And I simply said to him back, I said to him, have you ever asked them what's important to them?
Sure.
Have you asked them where is it they want to be? What is their career going to look like? And he said, no, I don't. And I said to him, well, that might be important to them. And so it's not about just earning money and having a nice suit. To them, it might be other things that are important to them. And to me, that's where the whole emotional intelligence thing plays, in the sense that it can help with retention and it can help with your engagement with other staff. And that was a really good lesson, I think, to bring home to me in terms of how powerful emotional intelligence can be. So maybe with that, Meg, you can talk to us a little bit about the Genos model that both of us are accustomed with, and tell us about how that works.
Sure. So in a nutshell, looking at what emotional intelligence is in the workplace, it's about each of us being able to perceive and understand our emotions, but also to be able to effectively express and manage those emotions. And that's not just within ourselves, but it's also recognising that within others. And the 6 core competencies that allow us to do that and allow us to really be mindful of the way that we're demonstrating these particular skills. I'll just briefly go through them, and I'll show the Genos model up on the screen here for you to see what each of those represent. So very quickly, it's about fundamentally having an awareness of yourself. So interestingly, most of the time, actually about 85% of the time, we are not conscious of our feelings. So starting to recognise and be aware of those emotions is one of those key fundamentals of emotional intelligence. Then it's recognising those in others. So an awareness of others, also being able to demonstrate as an individual and particularly as a leader. This is a key leadership capability, being authentic, being genuine, and being honest with your colleagues, with your teams.
So, otherwise, what can happen? I mean, what sort of the...
Yeah.
If you're not authentic, how are you perceived?
So, well, if you think of a leader that you've worked with before that perhaps was a little bit guarded, you didn't really know who they were as a person, they can sometimes come across as untrustworthy, or you're not really sure about how you where you stand
Mm-hmm.
with them.
Mm-hmm.
So someone who would be more, who would demonstrate a higher level of authenticity, they're perceived as genuine.
Mm-hmm.
They're the type of person that, you know, if they're having a bad day, for example, they might share that with you, or you know,
They're prepared to be more open.
They're prepared to be more
Yeah,
open.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so that goes a long way to developing trust within your workplace relationships,
Mm-hmm.
not just with your manager, but also with your colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
And so finally, as a leader and as an individual, recognising where you can positively influence others is a key one. So, you know, a leader great in this skill is all about empowering and developing their staff. So perhaps someone who is not too skilled in this area, they just seem to be a little more indifferent. When we are feeling more positive and more productive emotions, then we are more receptive, we can think clearer, we are better at problem solving, and that goes back to the brain state of when it's in a reward state and things are feeling good, then we're more open to collaborate and to engage. So that's all pluses.
And I think for me, what I get a lot out of this model is that it's not, while we talk about emotional intelligence as being for leaders is not necessarily the owners in the business or the managers of the business or the team leaders. It can actually be an individual. It can be somebody who's just starting their career. It can be the person who's only been with your organisation for 2 weeks. We can all be leaders at an individual level, and I think we've all got the capacity as individuals to develop our emotional intelligence, because at the end of the day, it really is a skill that we can all develop or gain greater awareness about. And one of the things that I talk to a lot to my clients about, as well as my colleagues, is that we talk about a collective responsibility. So leadership is not just about, as I said, the owners or the managers, but it's about what we as individuals can bring to the workplace. And when we think about emotional intelligence, we need to think in the context perhaps about workplace culture and how that develops around us with our colleagues. So thinking about emotional intelligence in terms of collective responsibility, I think also helps compartmentalize some of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So when we think about moving forward, I mean, if people want more information or people want to in their own workplaces, what's next? If you're interested in learning about more around emotional intelligence,
click on the link here that we'll provide on the screen. And you can get in touch with myself and Nick. We run workshops. We're also doing smaller seminars. We also use the Genos Emotional Intelligence instrument. So we are accredited to help you discover your level of emotional intelligence and how others perceive the way that you demonstrate those key skills. And that gives you those great development opportunities. So it's practical, implementable steps for you to apply back in the workplace.
Exactly. Thanks for listening.
Thanks everyone. Have a great day. See ya.
Bye.